Florida's continued success and growth relies upon free enterprise to make Florida more competitive. And while Florida continues to head in the right direction, as we have seen earlier today, we must also invest in telling our story to the right people, the decision makers. Every day, other states like California, Connecticut, Texas, and New York continue to dedicate massive funding dollars for targeted marketing campaigns, all aimed at detracting businesses from Florida. Florida can no longer rely on sunshine and word of mouth to tell our success story. And that's why Team Florida and Enterprise Florida have developed a marketing strategy and branding initiative called the Perfect Climate for Business. The Florida Chamber is asking the Florida Legislature to invest at least $20 million in annual funding to begin marketing Florida's business brand to out-of-state companies. The Boca Chamber is proud to partner in this effort as an early signer onto the Florida Chamber-led Market Florida resolution. And I encourage all of you to sign on to that resolution and join the Florida Chamber's efforts in bragging on a state that is getting more competitive each year. You can share your brag at hashtag CapDays15, which right there is on the screen. Make sure you do that. And so there's a number of people, and they're all sitting down now, who are leading the charge to discuss the importance of marketing our great state. And clearly, when I read their bios, you'll know it is certainly the A-team. First of all, a man who's been up on the stage all afternoon, Eric Szilagyi, who's president and CEO of Florida Power and Light. He's the former immediate past chair of the Florida Chamber, as he indicated earlier, but he's still being put to work by Mark Wilson up here at the Capitol Days. And Eric was featured in the first commercial for the Perfect Climate for Business, and Florida Power and Light has been actively, as you can see, engaged in this effort. Bill Johnson, former Florida board member, Florida Chamber board member as well, and newly appointed Secretary of Commerce. Congratulations, Bill. That's worthy of an applause. As Secretary of Commerce, Bill will be leading the marketing campaign going forward. And then we have the guru of all things Florida Chamber Foundation, Mr. Tony Carvajal, the Executive Vice President of the Florida Chamber Foundation. And of course, our President and CEO of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Mark Wilson, who also serves on the Board of Enterprise Florida and has taken the lead on asking for this $20 million to market Florida as a business destination out of the state. So gentlemen, thank you very much. And Mark, I'll hand it over to you to moderate.
Right. Thank you very much, Troy, for that introduction. Thank all of you for being here as well. We just came from a Senate healthcare panel, and as you know, healthcare costs and what's going on at the federal level are a serious issue for us in Florida, and the Florida Chamber's rolled out a 49-page bill to try to fix that, and that's where we were earlier today, so please forgive me. What we're going to talk about next is something I've actually been looking forward to for a long time, and I want to encourage you, as you hear this presentation from my three colleagues especially, you're going to hear information about Florida that you didn't know before. And you're also going to do two other things. You're going to think of information points that we didn't share with you today that you wish we knew and that you wish we shared. So if you come from a part of Florida or from an industry where you have important pro-Florida news to share, please don't assume that anybody knows about it. I actually would like to hear about it later tonight at the reception or tomorrow, because we're assembling what are those stories about what's going right in Florida. Many of us weren't born here. I'm from the Midwest, and so my frame of reference would be Illinois, and my frame of reference is what Florida's doing compared to, say, Illinois. And all of you have those frame of references as well. But Florida's been changing so fast that we just haven't really taken the time to talk often about the changes that we've made. A third point that I know is going to come up in your mind today is you're going to see four people talking about how we need to be bragging more about Florida. I don't want anybody in here to think that we're not fully aware that we have challenges in our state, whether it's testing and education, whether it's getting the talent ready for what we all need, whether it's lawsuit abuse reform, doubling trade, what do we do about poverty, what do we do about families that are stuck in generational poverty. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but Florida's changed so much. We want to share with you a little bit about the journey that we've been on here in Florida. And again, this is going to feel like we're bragging, and that's a little bit about what we're trying to do. And then you're going to hear from my colleagues today a little bit about what we're trying to do about it. And just anecdotally, I would share a quick story. Last session, in advocating for Enterprise Florida's budget, especially for marketing dollars so that we could go out and tell the Florida story, I personally was called into House and Senate leadership in the final week of session. And there was not much support for investing in marketing all of the great things that are going on in this state. And I will tell you, there was some general confusion between incentives, general confusion between Visit Florida and Enterprise Florida, general confusion among why don't we use incentive dollars for marketing dollars. And look, I just want to tell you, I think we've straightened all of that out. But I will tell you, if you had a $77 billion company that spent $0 marketing itself, the first thing you all would do is change that. And that's close to the situation we're in right now. So when my colleague Troy asked all of you to be thinking about signing a resolution, talking to your state legislator about this, working with your local chamber, your local EDC, what we're talking about here is marketing and selling all the amazing changes that all of you have been pushing for the last several years, from sales taxes on commercial, or I mean on manufacturing, right on down the line. So without any further delay, I want to get right into it. There's one person in the room, Carolyn Johnson. I saw her a few minutes ago, so of course, it happens to me all the time. Carolyn Johnson is our team leader at the Florida Chamber on all things economic development. She is responsible for this panel. She's responsible for advocating this to the legislature on a frontline basis. So if you have an idea of how we can get this $20 million across the finish line that you haven't heard us talk about today, either find me or find Carolyn, and we would appreciate that in advance, if you will. So again, I want to get this started, and we're talking about building a perfect climate for business. And we're going to take you on a 100-mile-an-hour journey through what's going on in Florida. So if we were a country, we would be the 19th largest economy in the world. Some of this data you've seen before. But I can tell you your employees are unaware of this data. Companies that don't pay close attention to it are unaware of the data. We've obviously passed New York. We're at about 20 million people. And as Eric said, we're going to add 6 million more people by 2030. And if you stop and think about that for a minute, where else in the United States can you have this type of an economic opportunity over the next 15 years? It's a really big opportunity. We've talked about jobs. We've talked about the unemployment rate. So the point there is Florida is changing. My question would be, but who is telling the story, right? Whether it's at your company meetings with your employees in your company newsletter, but who's marketing this to other states? So just think about it. In the last 4 years, we've eliminated or improved 3,000 regulations. We have paid down $4.5 billion in state debt. We've reduced taxes over 40 times in 4 years. And think about this. Last year at this meeting, we had an author, Travis Brown, come before you, and he wrote the book, How Many Walks? And he shared with us that for the last 15 years, every minute of every day, for 15 years, $11,000 of wealth has moved to our state. Right? So you think about that, but nobody knows that. I want to get specific here. Our education system in Florida, I'm talking about this all the time. And here's what's happened, and I wonder if you knew this. So our fourth grade reading scores, I'm going to show you a chart in a minute. Our fourth grade reading scores have gone from 45th in the country in the 90s to #1 in the country, #2 in the world right now. Our graduation rate among Hispanics is #1 in the United States. Our African American student achievement gains in our public schools are #1 in the United States. Okay, now I want to stop right there for a minute because I've talked to thousands of people about this. And normally what happens is they say, I didn't know that. And then they say, I don't know if I believe that. Okay? So we have to start talking about the data, and we have to start bragging about it and sharing it. These facts are real. And in fact, big believer in charts. We showed this to you at our annual meeting in Orlando. This is actually the orange dot there is Florida's fourth grade reading score. And you can see that we went from 45 all the way to #1 in the world. We do a lot of polling, and I will tell you the voters in Florida, 3% of Floridians know that we're #1 in the country, #2 in the world. And the media is certainly not going to tell that story for us. So we obviously have a job to do. So to continuing with the Did You Know theme, number 1, infrastructure in the United States. Number 3, largest cluster of logistics and distribution in the nation. 6th largest exporter in the U.S. Number 2 for foreign trade zones in the U.S. And a little fun fact on this slide, as you can see my friend over here, Bill Johnson, when Bill was on the board of the Florida Chamber, one of the first things he did is meet with Governor Scott, that this is actually back in 2010, at the Port of Miami to share the Florida Chamber's Trade and Logistics Report. And I think the rest is history. So Bill, thank you for your advocacy in your prior role, and we are really looking forward to the partnership in your current role. Also, many of you have been on trade missions with us all the way around the world, and if you think about how important trade missions are, but we can't do enough trade missions to Pennsylvania, to Singapore, to South America to tell the story. And that's why we need a marketing campaign. One-on-one marketing is just not going to get it done. The world's too big. Again, here's some more numbers for you since 2010. Almost 171,000 homes have been constructed, 234,000 businesses have started, 458,000 residents, new residents we've welcomed. Jobs created, over 700,000, you saw that earlier, and GDP is almost $72 billion of GDP that we've added. I'm going to quickly go through, I don't want to give you too much data. The point here is we have more to brag about than time to brag about it. And whether you want to talk about our education system, our taxes that are reduced, our regulations that are reduced, but we do things at the Chamber by pillar. And so when you look at the innovation and economic development pillar, venture capital, we're 12th in the country. When you look at patents, we're 11th in the country. When you look at Florida-made international goods, we're a top 10 in the country. When you look at investments in infrastructure, right, and when our foundation just had the 2015 Transportation Summit back in January, and Bill Johnson, thank you for joining us there as well. We talked about this, record levels of investment in infrastructure. And if you live in Orlando and you're aware of the largest capital project going on in the United States, that $2.3 billion project, you're going to have a lot of employees that are going to complain about congestion and traffic. But I think we as employers have an opportunity to explain the importance of getting infrastructure, whether it's roads, ports, airports, bridges, water, getting those ready, energy, getting that ready ahead of time. And speaking of energy, if you look at it, we have some of the cheapest energy, most reliable energy in the United States and in much of Florida. And so whether you want to talk about the cost of living, the cost of doing business, the availability of talent, to me, 4th grade reading scores are the single best determinant for us, because think about what that means when they get to 8th grade, 12th grade, when today's 5th graders are going to enter the workforce in 2026. And you start thinking about all the work you all have done to align the pillars to that end. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tony, and Tony's actually going to take you on a tour of what some other states are doing. And many of you have seen some of these ads that New York may be running, but unless you travel around the country, you may not know the amount of money other states are investing. You may not see these ads, and I think this will give us a perspective of how important it is that we do this right here, right now. So thank you.
So I'm fortunate every day to work with trustees and members of the Chamber Board that are committed to securing Florida's future. And by the way, Carolyn Johnson came back in. She was on the phone right outside. Carolyn, will you just wave for a second? Because she's one of the leaders on the Chamber side on economic development. But we're working with you to tell this message. If we can't get the stories out that Mark is talking about, doesn't matter what we do in all the great areas, we will still not be better than some of the other states. Montana may still have a greater share of STEM. North Dakota may still lead the U.S. Chamber's economic performance ratings. Texas may still be #1 growth in share of exports. Vermont may still have a higher entrepreneurial rate. Colorado may have more advanced degrees. And Utah may still attract more venture capital investment than us. Now, if you don't think that we should be on this board, that we should be beating these states with the infrastructure and the capacity and the commitment that we have, then maybe we need to start talking with you. But the reality is, all we have got to do is start telling the story over and over. Normally, we are comparing ourselves to ourselves, where we need to be in healthcare, in talent, in innovation, in quality of life, and competitiveness issues. Today, I'm actually going to tell you a little bit about what other states are doing, because I think it's important to know that there are a number of other states that have business campaigns out there. So When the Florida Chamber Foundation is normally looking at competitiveness, we're asking the question is, what is keeping us from achieving our top competitiveness? And while we're doing everything we can to improve our state, new Secretary of Commerce here has been doing it for years in prior roles and looking forward to what we're going to do in the future. What's standing in our way right now is us telling our story and other people trying to take things from us. This is just a short list of some of the other states that have campaigns. And I'm going to do a little test. I want you to write on a piece of paper, or at least just note in your own head, how much you think Florida is currently spending on marketing campaigns for economic development. And I'm going to give you some of the numbers of the other states, and you try to position us relative to those. So let's take Texas, the state that's ahead of us on a number of the competitiveness areas. We're always talking about them. They spend $21 million on this. Let's talk New Jersey, $25 million. Michigan, $25 million. California, with reason, $50 million. Even more, I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? I apologize. That was my outside voice. Okay, I really meant it for this one. New York. So how much do you think that they have to put in? $140 million this last year in this. Have you seen some of these campaigns? So where do you think Florida falls in that number? If you have anything higher than 0, you're wrong. That's what we're here to talk about. So let me show you a few campaigns. I'm going to walk you through some videos here, and this first one is actually Wisconsin's campaign and television ad. And before I tell you a little bit about Wisconsin, I'll just go ahead and run the ad.
Drive through Wisconsin. You'll see a state committed to its industries, to its policies designed to help business growth, and to its leadership in new emerging technologies. Successful businesses and their leaders here see it the same way.
I love working here in Wisconsin because we have access to outstanding talent.
It's really an excellent place to build a quality workforce.
It's, a place where people want to do business.
Visit business.inwisconsin.com.
How many of you are ready to move to Wisconsin? The state of Wisconsin and the Wisconsin Economic Development Commission have dedicated $1.5 million to this marketing campaigns in 2 areas alone. They're trying to recruit from Illinois and Minneapolis-St. Paul. So that was a $2 million campaign just for 2 areas. Wisconsin has also utilized print ads, radio, and online advertisements to reach businesses outside of the state. Now, we've got some of our ads you'll see on the outside, and the Secretary will tell you a little bit more about this in just a second, but I want to play one more ad here. I love to pick on New York. When they dig out of that snow, they can come down and defend themselves if they have any money left over from the taxes. But here we are to New York. They've just marketed regionally. And they're marketing here. Let me show you their ad, the Startup New York ad.
The new New York is open to innovation, open to ambition, open to bold ideas. That's why New York has a new plan. Dozens of tax-free zones all across the state. Move here, expand here, or start a new business here and pay no taxes for 10 years. We're New York. If there's something that creates more jobs and grows more businesses, we're open to it. Start a tax-free business at startupny.com.
Now, CFO Jeff Atwater sent a letter to New York Governor Cuomo last summer calling the New York ads misleading and pointed out the differences between New York's business climate and Florida's business climate. And this has not stopped the ads from running, though. New York has spent over $100 million marketing last year, and there's a little bit more money that actually you're contributing to because of Sandy dollars to help market against the state of Florida. I'm not sure if you knew that. I'm not here to try and get you mad necessarily, but if you do at the end of this, maybe there's some things that we can actually do together. Let me take you to North Carolina. As you know, this is one of our competitors in the Southeast, and here are just 2 print ads that they're trying to attract more biotech companies to North Carolina. The campaign is called State of Minds. Now, North Carolina spent $2.7 million to develop this and their larger Thrive in North Carolina campaign. I've just got a little bit more to show you, and Ohio has this Thrive theme, and they've adopted Live, Work, and Thrive as their business slogan. So I'm not sure if I've got the video here yet.
No one starts out striving to be average. There are no parades for mediocrity. There are no monuments to empty suits. Here, what we celebrate is passion, innovation, action, and good old-fashioned hard work. Right here in Ohio, we're making things better, faster, cheaper, smarter. We're attracting and creating businesses that put our best and brightest minds to work. In the past year alone, Ohio businesses have created more jobs than almost every other state in the country. And jobs don't just change things, they change everything. People, families, communities, regions, lives. It's jobs, and it's only the beginning. There are so many new success stories here in Ohio. Tell us yours at thriveinohio.com.
Now, clearly, there's a lot of things that we can agree with in that ads about the impacts of jobs and stuff, but what I will say is that I think that it's a lot better opportunity here in Florida. And then let's turn to our biggest competitor, Texas, who ranks just ahead of us in business climate polls often. Texas is spending over $20 million to market their state, and this ad you see here was done by Governor Rick Perry to attract businesses away from California. Texas also uses a variety of advertising mediums, such as print advertisements and web advertisements to try and gain some advantage. We know the opportunities that we have here in this state, and there's a lot of chance for not only us to tell the story every day, but you to tell the story, not only with the businesses that you interact with inside and outside of Florida, but also with your staff. Help us share the story so that we can continue to tell the Florida story. I don't know if you had a chance of listening to yesterday's State of the State, but I think the governor did a fantastic job discussing Florida's exceptionalism, discussing opportunities, discussing how this is the best place to make dreams come true. The one thing that hasn't been discussed, though, and here I'll turn to my friend, the secretary. I still am, this is third day on the job, so I've got it. I'm really respectful of him, but I'm still learning the secretary because he's been a partner in telling the story for a long time. One thing that has not been said is that there's one thing we've got to change, and that's Florida as the best kept secret. And we've got somebody at the helm that can do that. So Secretary, thank you, and thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Tony. Well, first of all, good afternoon to everyone. I feel in many ways this is like a homecoming, so I've never left. So I'm excited to be here. I want to thank Mark Wilson, Tony, and the Florida Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to be with you this afternoon. And again, I will tell you this, I think that without question, I don't think I know, without question that this state has the best Chamber of Commerce in America. I was a board member for 6 years. I know the power and I know exactly what the Florida Chamber of Commerce has done and what it can do. So unequivocally, we have the best chamber in the United States. I salute you, gentlemen, so thank you. Again, this is, as Tony says, my third day in the job. I feel like I've been at it for, I told the governor this morning, I feel like I've been at it for about a year. I've been just stepped down from 35 years in public service, and I will tell you that while I really worked hard as a public servant, the last 2 months, and I've been working really 2 months pro bono leading up to this, probably the longest, toughest months I've had. But it's been fun, and I can assure you that at the helm we are going to work closely, and we're going to do some great things working with the Florida Chamber and with all of you to really move the state forward. So again, I'm really pleased to be among so many chamber friends and so many other friends for so many years. And as I've said, I think that the Florida Chamber, I know the Florida Chamber is one of our Enterprise Florida's most important partners, and I clearly look forward to working closely with Mark Wilson, his team, as we work together to really move this state forward. I'm also pleased to be here with my friend and with EFI, one of my bosses, EFI board member Eric Szilagyi from Florida Power and Light. Eric has led the Team Florida, our EFI Team Florida Marketing Partnership campaign. He's going to talk about that today. So, and again, what does that mean? Well, it means that Eric Szilagyi has devoted an incredible amount of his personal time, his energies, to ramping up EFI's efforts and our marketing efforts. And I can tell you that I'm going to be a partner with Eric going forward, because one of my highest priorities as the new secretary and also the president and CEO of Enterprise Florida will be the outreach, will be the marketing. I spent, again, part of the morning today with Governor Scott, and we talked about marketing. I assure you that our governor is very focused in terms of the importance of what we collectively in this room can do to properly market and get the word out on the state of Florida. I was pleased and proud. About a week ago, I spent 2 days with the governor up in Philadelphia. You know, I'm a Midwest kid. I come from Ohio. And Ohio's great. But Ohio, you know, they're on the wrong side of things. Pennsylvania is on the wrong side of things. They're raising taxes. And in this state, we're lowering taxes. We have the right business climate. We need to get that word out. But again, I'm early in my game. It's my third day. But I can safely say that a refreshed, and a key word is refreshed, a refreshed, aggressive, and targeted marketing campaign is number one on my must-do list. Everyone in this room, all of you know that Florida has, and you've heard Mark and Tony talk about it, and it's an impressive list of bragging rights. And rightfully so, because we've worked hard collectively in this state to make those things occur, make those things happen. With strong leadership from Rick Scott and with our Florida legislature, strong support from this chamber and from your organizations, your businesses, focused in the right way. But I can tell you that an attractive, competitive, and in many ways unmatched business climate, that's ours. That business climate is ours, and we need to get that message out to the rest of America and globally. But in particular, we need to start here in our own state so that Floridians understand what Florida is all about and what Florida has to offer. I think you will all agree that we can do a better job. That's not to be critical, but we can all double up, redouble the effort, and do a better job. Governor Scott hasn't just challenged me. Governor Scott has challenged all of us. All right, to make our state the #1 state in America for job creation. And the numbers, the stats as you've heard are very impressive, but we can do more. You know, my predecessor who did a great job, Gray Swope, in his 4 years did a phenomenal job. I got big shoes to fill. And the team at Enterprise Florida, working with the chamber and working with the governor and the legislature, created 728,000 jobs over the last 4 years. I told the governor after his speech yesterday, I said, you know, Governor, we're gonna beat, because I love to compete, right? We're gonna compete the 728 that Gray Swope helped do. So I say to Eric, a board member, and Mark's also on my board, we're gonna shoot for 1 million. And if we can, we want to get around 1 million new jobs over the next 4 years. I love that. So that challenges me, and that's the fun part of it. Therefore, it's with a great sense of excitement, enthusiasm that I take on this new challenge, the new leadership role at EFI. It's a role that I believe I come prepared to do. I've had 35 years working in public service, really in South Florida, working on economic development issues. Many of you know that I had 8 years at the helm of Port Miami. And really the first thing I did in 2006 at Port Miami was join up, became a team member of this great chamber with Mark Wilson. And I can tell you that through the work of Mark Wilson and Tony, David Hart, who I see sitting out there, Carolyn, Ms. Johnson, I see you sitting out there, the work of this chamber helped transform for the maritime industry, and I'm not exaggerating, has saved our industry, our ports, millions and millions annually to each of these ports. And that's a tribute to the hard work of this chamber. So I can't say enough good things. Well, again, thanks to the support of Rick Scott, our governor, the legislature, you know, we are making progress. After this session, I'm convinced the legislature will approve the governor's request for additional funding for ports. That number will stand at $850 million in 4 years for ports. $850 million. That's unbelievable. Prior to this governor, ports were lucky to get 15 or 20 million in total a year. Compare 20 million, okay, to the average of 150 to 200 million a year. And those are smart investments in infrastructure for us, but most importantly, for our children and our grandchildren. So what? There's a single overarching objective, one objective that I have in mind. We at EFI, need to be competitive. We need to understand what they're doing in other states. Texas is a huge, if you've heard already, competitor of ours in terms of trying to create jobs. So I focus, what are they doing in Texas? Learn from them. What are they doing up in Pennsylvania and New York? You learn by watching others. Simply, my role is to be focused on creating a better, working with the legislature and the governor to create a better business environment, to create more and more jobs. So how do we do that? Well, first and foremost, we need to continue the good work that's been done in recent years. You know, I want to salute, if you will, the Florida legislature, Governor Rick Scott for the last 4 years. They've, as Mark Wilson said, they've gone out, just incredible. They've cut taxes over 40 times. They've cut over 3,100 regulations. If you're a startup business and you look at Florida, and I can tell you, in Philadelphia, a week and a half ago with the governor, I mean, this major company out of Philadelphia, a gas station, we call it, a gas station, Well, Wawa indicated, said to the governor, this is the best state they have from a regulatory perspective. We're protecting the environment, but we work through our state EPA with Wawa. They've been able to not open up 41 stores, which is their original objective by now. They've opened up over 60. And they're doing more and more and more across the state. We have the right business environment. We need to continue to look for ways to remove and to take out, if you will, obstacles to doing business and attracting business to our state. At the same time, we need to identify market strategies, the right tools and the right partners, like you today in this room, to bring new businesses here, to expand businesses here. So again, the importance of businesses, the importance of being partners with these businesses. And I want to stress the importance and being vital, the importance of partnerships. It are these partnerships that will propel us forward in meeting our shared goal of creating more and more jobs and economic growth in our state. Well, clearly, how do we do this? That's the purpose of today's forum. How do we do this? We got to market the heck out of our state. We have to market the heck out of the state of Florida. And again, you've heard the stats. We spend incredible amounts of money wisely through Visit Florida. The number for the last number of years has been about $75 million annually. And Will and company do a good job of that. The governor has recommended an increase of $10 million in his recommendations to the legislature to take it to $85 million. But those are smart decisions. I mean, we can't overemphasize the importance of tourism to our state, but we also need to understand the importance of marketing the business climate of the state. So the governor has made a recommendation, and I work for the EFI board, and I work for the governor. So the governor's put in a request of $5 million. That's what I work with the legislature on. Partners of ours are recommending or suggesting more. Okay, so obviously, if more comes, we're happy. But that's the importance of this marketing campaign. And I can tell you, 18 months ago, no one was working or fighting, okay, to get this money other than Eric Szilagyi and Mark Wilson, and I thank them for that. So what are we doing? I'm going to show you just a couple things real quickly as I wrap up. And then Eric Szilagyi is going to talk about the $2.4 million, the money that he's raised from the private sector at EFI to really, and again, this is led by the private sector to bring in money and bring in dollars. And again, this Florida Chamber has been backing and supporting this, so I thank them for that, okay? And it takes all kinds of things, and this is really what it's about, if I can get this correct. So this is what we call the business or the perfect business climate ads, okay? And again, where have these gone? Where have these been shown? Okay, this continues to be, if you will, digital TV. This is digital, it's TV ads, it's at events, it's social media, newsletters. We have a dedicated website, on and on and on. So these are some examples. Now, the perfect business climate, all right, there are print ads, okay? And these print ads have appeared in Fortune magazine, Business Week, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, The Economist. The creative approach suggests that the state's business assets, including our workforce, our infrastructure, our global access, all, if you will, to help sell Florida. I've asked my marketing team at EFI, and we're going to work with private partners as well to get their input, but I've asked the marketing team for a comprehensive review of our creative approach. I think that we need to take a clean look, a fresh look, and ask ourselves whether we are conveying the right message to the right audience, and doing so in a compelling, consistent, and coherent way. That's not being critical of the past. I think we need to get the input from you, our chamber members, from companies like Florida Power and Light, who are so heavily involved with us. That means we need to be open and really look at ideas and suggestions. To reach our CEOs across America, the campaign took a different approach. In the past, Fortune magazine, The Economist, et cetera, they were cover wraps. Okay, and these show, if you will, as on this slide, they feature business leaders from Florida companies. This is sort of our bragging rights through our business leaders. The copy highlights, if you will, the bragging rights of our state, the perspective of individual business leaders. And so again, that's one approach that we've taken. We might be able to do more of these, but we want input. Obviously, we've done some television commercials, and this is one. We're going to roll some video. This is about 30 seconds. Do I just push this again?
Yes, sir.
This is a television commercial.
With fewer roadblocks and regulations, I can really engineer my business to succeed.
As the #1 ranked state in innovation, we're the perfect climate for high tech.
Unlock the possibilities of new markets by tapping into Florida's global expertise. Florida's economy really suits our business style.
There's never been a better place for your business to thrive. Florida, a perfect climate for business.